Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Life in Layouts, and today I'm back with another Doodlebug Happy Healing. And I pulled out this sketch from Page Maps of October 2012. I made some modifications to it so that I could add additional photos, and so I do show you those modifications here. I love that Doodlebug came out with this collection because I have so many photos that work so well with it. These photos here are from my surgery that I had a couple years ago. Because there are some photos that may be a little sensitive to people, I did make sure to only include white squares for those photos, and I wrote on a post-it note what those photos are. So if you want to know what the photos are, you can get an idea. I found this one picture online that says, "Here to cancel my monthly subscription," and I loved that photo. It was a photo of actually like a design for a shirt, and I purchased that shirt and wore it to my surgery so that I could wear it like home, and my doctor loved it. You can kind of see it a little bit in that picture of me in the car looking towards the camera, obviously. I purchased the white shirt. It was also available in black. I kind of wish I would have purchased the black one, but either way, it was a cute shirt. And I got a lot of compliments on it at the surgery center. So the sketch calls for, on the left-hand side, several photos as well as pattern paper or cards. It kind of depicts just pattern paper there. I decided that I would add a majority of the photos. So I have a couple of photos of me in the bed before the surgery. They put this monitor on my leg, so I took a picture of that as well. And I'm just really lining up the photos. The one picture that I'm covering up is of my hand, where they stick the needle in so that they can administer all the medications and things like that. I pulled out the dot paper from Doodlebug Petite Prints in the cherry, and that's going to be the top piece of this layout. And over on the far right hand side, I added the heart paper. And this is one of those papers that I think I picked up 2 additional pieces of paper during my extra scrapbook.com purchases because I love that heart paper. I just think that it would work well, obviously, with this collection, but it could also work well with other collections. Down at the bottom, I used that tone on tone print that has like all of the different icons from this collection. And I was actually talking to Nicole the other day about this. The other side has the same print, but it's just all colorful. And that is so busy. But those tone on tones are just perfect because it just gives a hint of everything that's in the collection. And then, of course, I had to bring in a stripe or plaid that has all the colors. So I pulled out this plaid here and I used a border strip. And I'm looking at the layout now, and the entire border strip is covered up. So that's good on me that I took the extra effort to cut that border strip out and then covered it all up. It's always fun. So I made sure that the border strip was lined up evenly and then cut out the right hand side as well. I also decided to pull out my petite prints in a yellow. I felt like I just needed one additional color, and I pulled it out in the stripe. That paper is 1.5. But then I felt like I needed a transition, and I used this technique on a different layout, and I am loving it, and I think I've used it quite a few times since then. I use this border punch that I've had forever. If I can find it, I will try to link it below. It has a wave to it, and then it also has little tiny holes already poked in it. I'm going to add that down to separate the yellow paper from the red and blue paper. And then later on, I'm going to stitch yellow thread on it. And I love the way that that turns out. So now I'm back on the left-hand side trying to find something to work in those 2 additional spots. Again, the sketch calls for either pattern paper or a card. This collection doesn't have a lot of like square cards, so I was really trying to figure out what to use. I did find this card that says "You got this" and it has a hospital bed on it, but it was too small. So I looked through the 6x6 paper and found this really pretty floral, and I love the floral in that smaller print. I just love things in petite prints. So I was like, oh, I'll put the smaller card that says "You got this" on top of that floral, and it just tied it in perfectly. Then for the other square, I decided that I would just add this like clipboard, and it has a smiley face on it with a tooth and a heart, and it says "We care about you." And even though this isn't like a tooth thing, I was like, I'm just going to go with it because it's cute. So I'm going to go ahead and add the photos down. The sketch calls for 2 4x6 photos on the right hand side. And then I added 3 additional photos, and that's where I kind of stretched the sketch there, adding those 3 photos. Those 3 photos that are covered up are of my incisions. I had 3 tiny incisions on my stomach, 1 in my belly button, and then 2 on either side of me. I definitely wanted to include it, but I did not want my video taken down, so they are covered up. I did start with just the cards, but then later on decide to mat them, so I will bring the photos in eventually. I'm trying to save paper, which is something that I always do. I did cut down that heart paper. I measured it out to make sure that the red paper and the blue paper covered it completely, and just cut out a big chunk in the center. Then I added the red polka dot and the blue tone-on-tone paper down to the layout as well. And once I get both of those down, I do tuck them underneath the photos. Then I add the yellow paper down, and that covers up the heart paper that I completely gutted. And I add the white border strip on top of the yellow paper. And then bring in my photos, and I definitely put that in quotations. But then realized that I forgot to add this strip, and I thought, let me go ahead and put the left-hand side of the layout down so that I can make sure that I line the strip up in the right place. So just adding the blue tone-on-tone paper down and then the red polka dotted paper. Of course, I do have to pull out my X-Acto knife and T-square ruler because I did not cut it completely accurate. It was just a little tiny piece that I had to cut off. And of course, I struggle with it quite a bit trying to get it off, but finally get it off. And then I will add the plaid paper down, and also using the T-square ruler and X-Acto knife to cut off the edge. I love using sketches, and you guys know that I use them quite a bit, but I love the fact that you're able to really make the sketch your own and figure out what works for you. For this particular sketch, I really liked the layout, but there just wasn't enough photos, so I decided to make it my own. And I have been really enjoying using Canva to help with my scrapbooking, whether it's printing out digital images or, in this case, making a sketch my own and adding the photos to it. Sometimes it does really help to have that visual before you lay all your photos out. I thought my photos were getting lost, so I decided to mat all of them on some white cardstock. I did pull out my layering guides to make sure that I had an equal border around all of the edges. I do have a tutorial, and I will link that for you here. I even decided to mat the floral paper because I thought it would look weird if I had the photos on the left and right of the floral paper matted and then not the floral paper matted. If I had the wherewithal to think this through, I could have made the floral paper the same size as the mats, and that would have made up for the difference. But I like the white background as well. It gives it just a little extra. After I get everything matted, I lay all of the cards and photos down. And of course, I struggle a lot because that's just what I do. I do finally eventually get them down straight, but it does take a lot of maneuvering the T-square ruler around, and you guys just know I just struggle with getting things straight. I love the way that a grid looks on a layout, but man, is it a lot of work to get it on the layout. I decided that I would put that little clipboard up on FunFoam because I knew that it was going to overlap the photo above it, so I wanted to give it a little bit of dimension. And then I also added the little card that says "You got this" on FunFoam as well, and added that to the center of the floral paper, pulling my T-square ruler out to make sure that it is straight. So this is where I decided that I should probably bring the photos in because the photos are now matted. So what I decided to do was add a little bit of washi tape so that it makes a little flap so that I could adhere the photo down, and then once my video is complete and it is ready to go on my layout, I can pull off the photo placement cards and reuse them, because these come from close to my heart, and you get them when you like purchase their workshop kits, which obviously they're no longer in business, but I really enjoy having those because there's times where I either forget to print a photo, or like in this case I need to cover photos up, and I like having that visual of exactly how big it is because it does say place photo here and it has the size, so it gives you guys the visual of what the photos would be like in that place. So I do like to reuse them. Once I got 2 of the photos down, I realized I forgot to put down that border strip. So I adhere that down and then add the 3rd photo. And then I get to start with the embellishments. I specifically wanted to use that hospital bed for this layout because, one, obviously I'm in a hospital bed. It's actually a surgery center, it's not a hospital, but close enough. It is really large. It's a very large piece. So I first started out on the right hand side, but I didn't like it because it didn't really have a shelf to sit on. So I added it over to the left hand side and then pulled out a doctor's lab coat and added that to the right hand side. And I've said it before, but I am loving the silver accents in this collection. So the bed has a silver accent to it. The doctor's coat has the silver accents to it as well. It just adds just a special little extra touch. I did put the doctor's coat up on fun foam and then decided to add this little medical bag, and I wanted to add it kind of like the coat was holding it. So I put the medical bag flat, but then the little handle, I did adhere it to the top of the sleeve of the coat. Over on the left hand side, I pulled out the icon stickers and added a hospital as well as a hospital bracelet. Then I pulled out the puffy stickers and added one over to the far right hand side with all of the doctor stuff, and also added a couple of little tiny white pills to the right hand side. I do add the hospital and the hospital bracelet up on fun foam, and I put my stamping block down just to secure it in place. Then I added a little tiny circle band-aid. I felt like the circle band-aids were perfect because that's kind of like the band-aids that I got when I was at the surgical center. On the little clipboard, I do add the date, and then I add the name of the outpatient center that I had my surgery at. I am going to journal, but that's going to be over on the far left. I forgot that I wanted to round the edges, so of course I had to pull that up, and I rounded the edges on all 4 sides. I just love the look of the rounded edges. And then just went back through with my HEG to make sure that everything was secure. And of course, I'm going to stitch. This one's just going to have a simple stitch right down that white border strip. I'm going to use the holes from the border strip as a guide, and then I'm going to pull out my threads. I really looked through several different pieces of thread. I thought about a pink, but I was like, I don't know about that. And then when I pulled out the yellow, I was like, yep, that's perfect, because it almost looks like the yellow from the stripe paper is poking through with the thread. So I did pull out several different yellows trying to decide which one I wanted to use. I even thought about going a little orange, but I really liked the yellow. So I finally find a yellow, and I did slow this down quite a bit because I've had a couple of questions. So as you can see here, I have a 6-strand thread, and I am going to split it so that there are 3 pieces in each strand. This is a personal preference. I know several people who have used 2 strands, 1 strand, 6 strands. It's really whatever you prefer. I prefer 3 strands. Then I use my needle threader and I thread the needle with the 3 strands, and I always start at the back. And I come up the layout, and then what I do is I pull almost all the way through, and I take the piece that is left from the end of the thread and I hold it up. I wrap the thread around the piece that I'm holding up and then tie it in a knot. So I tried to do it pretty slowly here so that you can see I do usually do it twice. And then I go underneath the thread and then go back through the loop to tie another knot, and that secures it in place. And then I come up the next hole. I did zoom in quite a bit here so that you can see that I'm going to go up the next hole and then back stitch. And then on the back, I will come back up through the next hole. And I'm sorry, my camera was not keeping up with me in regards to zooming. It was like, what are you doing? But you can see here that I am pointing to the hole that I'm going to go through. Then on the back, I'm going to go through that hole and then come back through the previous hole that I stitched through before. So you're going to stitch through the hole a couple of times. And then when I get to the end, I am doing the same thing. I'm using that back stitch. So once I've gone through and put thread through each one of the holes, and I go through my last hole, I come to the back of my layout and I go through that last hole that I just made. Like I go underneath it. I'm going to secure a loop, go through that loop, and it ties a knot. It's not a very large knot. It almost looks like I'm braiding it. I usually do this 3 or 4 times, really depending on how much thread I have left. Sometimes I'll go quite a bit. This one I did a lot more than I normally do because I was just trying to show you guys the technique. And then once that's all done, I pack everything up, and that is it for this video. Here is my final layout as well as some close-ups. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.